Three, two, go.
Hello, hello, hello. This is Corey Thompson from Above Board TV and Dice Tower Dish.
And this is the Podfather of Gaming, Stephen Bonacore. You are listening to Board Games Insider, episode 322. And we're recording this on June 6th, 2024. Board Games Insider is proud to be powered by Board Game Geek. Corey, now, it's just the two of us.
It's just
We,
the two of us.
just the two of us. What's the next line in that song? Anyway, and
We could
Ignacy,
make it if we tried.
we could make it if we tried, just the two of us,
Yeah, you
you
should
and
never
I.
sing again.
Um, Ignacy promised that he was going to be here today. Did he not?
He did.
Oh my God. And he
But then
literally,
you changed the time on us.
no. I said that I can't. Well, yes, I guess I did. So I'm on. So as people who watch this can see, I'm not even in my Podfather wear
Oh,
right now. I don't even have a
so
logo branded
terrible.
shirt on. One of the few times you'll ever see me without a Podfather shirt on. Um, I'm in Las Vegas. We'll talk about why I'm here in a minute or two. And so I'm on the Pacific time, as is Corey. So we did
Yep.
move this because there's no way I'm waking up and being camera ready at 6 a.m. Pacific
Who
time.
would
Like,
do that?
who would ever do that, Corey? Thank you. So we had to move it for Ignacy. That therefore had to come late, and he was going to make it still, and he did not. So I love him to death, and I just yelled at him, sort of, on on WhatsApp. So we got to get it. He even said it's his fault. He's sorry, but he has an important meeting to make, even though it's this late. Corey, without further ado, man,
Yes,
tell me what's
sir.
happened in your life because there's some big stuff happening at
Oh,
your
it's
in
been
your corner of the
insane.
world.
Uh, I'm excited. I just closed on a house down in LA, near the studio.
Cool.
That was all of yesterday, was signing 100,000 times. I'm getting ready to head down to LA for filming of D&D sessions with Becca Scott and Jason Charles Miller. It's just going to be fantastic. This will be the third, fourth, fifth, sixth episodes of this ongoing series to be coming out on Above Board TV. Right after filming in LA, and by the way, good friend of the channel, Mark Streed, will be coming to LA to watch the filming and see the studio and visit LA. Then the
Nice.
two of us will be flying to Origins from LA. So looking forward to Origins. Just everybody is going to be there. It's going to be just such a fun social thing. I'm looking forward to playing games with so many different people. I can't even list them.
Yeah.
And then after Origins, I'm finalizing the honeybee video. So hopefully that all comes together. It's still in logistics phase where we're figuring everything out, but it's getting very real.
It's
Getting very real.
That's just insane. More on that as it develops, of course. Over here at the Podfather of Gaming, as I mentioned, I am in Las Vegas on an annual trip having nothing to do with board gaming, but it might have to do with gaming as in the casinos, the normal thing some people do when they come to Las Vegas is an annual trip with my brother and a few friends to do bad boy things. That means when you're this age, that means you eat too much, you drink too much, and you gamble too much. So that's as bad as we get. So,
You
this is
can't tell us it stays in Vegas.
oh, whatever. Yes, of course. When you're in your 60s, all kinds of bad things are going to happen. Um, we're, we're at the Win for the most part at the sports book there, and it's a great week to be there because Saturday is not only the Belmont Stakes, the one of the biggest horse racing events of the year. So there'll be plenty of fun horse racing, gambling going on there, but also it is the game one of the Stanley Cup Finals. Go Florida Panthers! So I can't wait to watch that game. Florida's
Yeah,
gonna be
because the most natural sport for Florida is ice
yeah.
hockey.
Does that
There's
matter? It's
there's a
in
lot of well-known raised and bred ice hockey players from Florida.
that is kind of true, right? I mean, there's so many. Canadian, and all of the Nordic countries have all of these great ice hockey players over time. Uh, but yeah, not raised in bred and played hockey in Florida when they were young, probably. But now they're Florida Panthers' best team in the league, so it's kind of cool. And then right after this, next week, this is a kind of an important thing I really wanted to point out. I'm going to be down in South Florida in Homestead. There's the Dice Tower Summer Spectacular, but when you're hearing this, it's already going to be on, and I'm not going to be on camera. What I'm going to be do is I'm going to be the concierge, the shepherd. I'm going to be doing the logistics for two of the winners, the ring winners from last year's 2023 World Series of Board Gaming, and so Scott and PJ are going to be on camera, and the Dice Tower folks are going to be trying to beat them, some of the winners from the World Series of Board Gaming last year. And Tom is going to do an interview with them on Thursday morning. So I would say, please tune in. I think you're going to have a lot of fun watching this. Wednesday afternoon, they'll be on all day Thursday, but particularly Thursday morning. And by the way, this is just to give you the exact date. This would be Thursday, the 13th in the morning. There'll be an interview with PJ and Scott. And then also on Friday, the 14th, they will be on in the morning. And I'm going to give you guys a code right now if you want to get tickets to the World Series of Board Gaming. I highly recommend it. If you buy the upper tier tickets, the stay and play or the four-player four game ticket, you can use code Podfather to get a $20 discount on the ticket. That's not a huge discount because these tickets are, relatively expensive, but hey, every buck counts. You can buy me a beer when you're there with the extra $20. Okay. So I hope, some of you guys can watch Scott and PJ on the Dice Tower Wednesday the 12th, Thursday the 13th, Friday the 14th of June. And then the week after that, I see Corey at Origins. And
Yeah,
that's going to be so much fun. There's literally an event on the Origins calendar. You can sign up for it on Wednesday at 4 p.m. I believe it's 4. It's called Beers with Bonacore. Think about that. They put this on the Origins calendar because I mentioned it to them. So they said so the guy who's kind of my liaison with Origins, his name is Cree. He's awesome. He goes, I love alliteration. We're going to use this. Beers with Bonacore. And you can have beers with me at Barley's on Wednesday, late afternoon. I think it's 4 o'clock. Beers, appetizers, and we can talk about beer. And, because I am a beer expert by actual certification. And then I'm going to be hosting the Origins Awards. And they've also asked me to moderate a panel on D&D's 50th anniversary,
nice.
starring luminaries from the beginnings of D&D, including Luke Gygax, right? Son of the original person who created Dungeons and Dragons, Gary Gygax. So really going to be some interesting stuff to check that out. You can go onto the events page and put Bonacore in there, and I'm sure you'll find a whole bunch of things that I'll be doing, all fun things. The only other thing before we move into the event deck, I didn't give you the website for the World Series of Board Game, WSBG, World Series Board Game, WSBGVegas.com, and use code PODFATHER for a discount on the tickets. Let's get over to the event deck.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right, brother. We have a lot of news here, so we have to kind of move through this. But the first one is
Yeah.
kind of interesting, right? So a company called DIZED, who do
Yeah.
tutorial videos, correct? They
So,
are partnering
yeah.
with Hasbro. Hasbro.
So DIZED originally started working on their stuff in 2017. They've been making interactive board game tutorials for a long time now. You can go to dice.com. There's a whole list of learn to play a board game. And it's really exciting because starting with Life in Reterra, DIZED is now offering Hasbro board games. Life in Reterra, of course, is Hasbro's newest with Eric Lang that comes from Avalon Hill. So it's a really exciting title. DIZED has millions of subscribers. It's been going strong. And full disclosure, I'm a shareholder in DIZED. So if it sounds like I'm selling DIZED, it's because I'm selling DIZED. But I really like the company. I think what they do is really amazing. They've got a great group of people working, and Uni, the owner founder, is just brilliant and does so many super cool. I can't express how much the interaction of the tutorials really is
Yeah.
just so mind-blowing. Some people learn best by reading a rule book. Some people learn best by having it taught to them by someone else. Some people by watching a video. This offers another avenue where you can actually have this interactive learning process. So
Yep.
anyway, DICE now has Hasbro games.
Very, very cool. That is a big leap for them and in general for the industry to get, money coming in from big companies like that. Very quick one on this Southern Hobby Distribution. They used to be called one of the big five in board game distribution in North America, though
Yep.
they had kind of stepped back from board games over the last several years. The president is retiring. Longtime Southern Hobby Distribution president Chris Austin is retiring this week, the company announced. Austin became president on the retirement of his father, Jim Austin, which occurred in the early 2010s. Prior to that, he was vice president and has been with the company since its founding in 1991. Southern Hobby Distribution CEO Ken Isaacson, who joined the company in that role as it was acquired by Entrust Global Group in 2021, shared his thoughts on the occasion. Quote, Chris is a rare leader who is both greatly respected and truly loved across our company and across the industry. So I don't know Chris Austin, and I know quite a bit of the leaders at the distributors. I don't know Chris well. Again, they were the fourth, fifth largest of the distributors. But we wish him well in his retirement. Maybe he'll come to some game events, and he and I can go out and talk about the old days in the industry.
Very cool, man.
Next one is about Mantic. Mantic is acquiring River Horse's brand and assets in a strategic partnership. Do you know much about this
Yeah.
one? This is interesting.
So Mantic's been around for quite a while. They've got a lot of very nice titles. River Horse has kind of been this underdog. River Horse is known for releasing strong IP-based board games, and their biggest ones were a lot of the Jim Henson IPs, Labyrinth, The Dark Crystal. Um, but they've done a ton. They had a Hunger Games board game. They had Dragonbound. There was a Terminator board game, Pacific Rim board game. So they're really known for putting IPs on titles. So together, Mantic's got more games under their belt. So this should be a really good one.
Very, very good for them. Maybe this is a good marriage for all parties involved.
Yeah.
The next piece of news here is probably the biggest piece of news for the week. In fact, I'll say definitely it's the biggest piece of news, and that's that Steamforged is acquiring Warmachine and Iron Kingdoms titles, and it forges a partnership with Privateer Press. So,
So
Corey,
yeah.
this is huge news because Warmachine is the second biggest miniatures board game miniatures war game miniatures game in the
Yeah.
hobby. Very cool.
This is definitely news in the miniature side. So, Warmachine has always been compared to Warhammer 40K and that sort of line. It's an entire world with a core game rule set and a bunch of little subsidiary games within it. So, uh, Privateer Press has been active in the miniatures and a little bit in the board game world for a really long time. So this is a very interesting acquisition. Steamforged has been buying up a whole bunch of different companies over the years. And this is another one to put under their belt. Steamforged the one I thought was really excited early in the year is Steamforged saved the board game Euthia, which is like a Diablo type loot collection dungeon crawl title that had some financial issues. But Steamforged also known for IP miniatures based board gaming, things like the Horizon Zero Dawn game, Dark Souls, Demon Souls. These games were under Steamforged, so they're known for very pretty minis and big elaborate miniatures games. So this all fits on brand.
Yeah, this is the only miniatures game, true miniatures, right? We're talking the
Yeah,
Warmachine style of you got to build armies game that I even remotely dabbled in. And when I say remotely dabbled, that means I bought one of the source books and a few of the minis and realized it wasn't going to be for me based on the fact that it's just like a lifestyle thing that you have to really get into. But I grabbed a couple of things and I checked out the rules and I'm like, I can't spend the amount of time, money, and energy in this. But this is very big news for those who do play Warmachine or who even play Warhammer, because there's obviously some ties between all of the
yeah.
miniatures gamers that are out there.
And I think it firmly places Steamforged in that category of miniatures gaming company and in a real competition
Right.
as one of the big players.
Right. Now I can't get over this next one, Corey, that you got off of Board Game Wire, and that's that Uwe Rosenberg. Uwe Rosenberg, very famous, noted, one of the great designers of the industry, is teaming up with scientists to
Yep.
develop a quantum tech themed board game thanks to an 820,000 euro government funding. Corey, what? What? What is
This
this?
is fantastic. So, Germany's Federal Ministry for Education and Research is providing 820,000 euro to fund the project, which is being co-developed by quantum researchers from the Technical University of Braunschweig, Stuttgart-based physics education specialist Professor Ronnie Nauroth and Berlin-based Professor Jens Junge and his team from the Institute of Ludology. So this is amazing. Now, it's not the first time that groups have tried to make a quantum physics-based board game. The famous example was there was a print and play board game called Entangled that was originally created by IBM to explain quantum physics and entanglement. And that was a cooperative board game with really weird rules. Because the honest truth is, quantum physics just doesn't intuitively make sense. A lot of things happen in quantum physics that don't seem real, that seem like fakes. And I think having a game to bring it into a more tangible element is
I,
fantastic. And
I,
this has a good chance of having a popular game.
as most people who know me more deeply than just, oh, he's a board gamer and he was with Stronghold and now played as he know my love of some of the harder sciences and of course space exploration, space science and astronomy. But I've looked into, quantum physics and because it's so in the even in the popular part of science these days, it's always talked about. It is so counterintuitive. Everything about quantum physics is insane. And the
It
funniest th
is.
and the funniest thing is it really works. And I mean, I could talk about this for a while. Quantum physics and Einsteinian physics are two absolute truths that don't work together. And
No.
and they're
And
trying and
quantum
Hawking to
quantum
be
physics works on microscopic scale, atom level scale, where
subatomic.
normal physics fails.
Yeah, it's
It's
insane.
it is really crazy.
And that's what one of the things Hawking was trying to do for most of his life, was trying to marry those two things in the grand unified theory, which has never finally come to fruition. It's one of those things that scientists always says, well, we're 20 years out from understanding this. We're 20 years out from having the grand unified theory. We're 20 years out from having fusion reactors. Those are the things in science that just
We
aren't
have proof of
quite there.
concept of fusion
Yeah, we
reactor. We can
we
make
do.
it work. It's just not economical.
Just not economical yet. But that's
So
that's great stuff.
this is being referred to as Project Quantista. and it's going to be tested by game groups as early as next year. The publisher is going to be Skellig. Skellig Games, well-known European publisher. They're going to use the feedback from this test to produce 3,000 demonstration copies that'll be for game fairs and cafes. So Skellig is looking to make the game a permanent product after the end of the project, and the project runs until May 2027. So we're a few years away, but I am super excited. I want
Yeah,
I want all the copies.
I, I can't wait to
But
see that.
unfortunately, I think once you open them up, all of a sudden it doesn't become a game anymore. Once you observe it, it just falls apart.
It's right. You don't know the state. Is it a game or is it not a game in that box? All right,
It's
never mind.
true. It's
Let's
true.
let's let's move on. So I've got this one, Corey. Catalyst Games is licensing.
I put this one in
I
because I mean, you cannot make up a story like this. Just the title. I think you should just read the title
gonna read the
and then
title.
just let it sink in. This is brilliant.
Catalyst Games licenses Snoop Dogg and Master P's cereal brand for a new area control game. Also reveals another licensing deal for a TTP RPG, a tabletop role play. So, but Catalyst Games has licensed Snoop Dogg and Master P's cereal brand called Snoop Cereal for a new area control game. Snoop Cereal, a Snoop Dogg inspired line of breakfast cereals. What the? Made by Broadest Foods and post-consumer brands is now headed to the tabletop as a new game. In Snoop Cereal, Get in the Game. Players will assume the roles of members of the canine team, oh my God, and try to control the basketball court. To accomplish this task, players will need to lay tiles and connect them to other tiles their team members place. They can rotate, swap, and replace actions to switch up their strategies or block opponents from controlling too much of the court.
This is just
I
amazing.
mean, really? I mean, and I know the guys at Catalyst very well. Lauren Coleman is a very good friend. He was a big help to me at Stronghold early on doing logistics, getting games into Origins, taking them there and bringing them to Gen Con, getting stuff in there. He great guy, great company. They've got a great niche with some of the stuff that they do. This is insane. Lauren, this is
Well,
insane.
when we were doing our predictions of what the next big trend in board game was, didn't you pick uh 90s rap star inspired board game products as the new theme?
You're right. I wanted
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Anyway, this is just great stuff. I mean, is it going to work? Is it going to make sense? Are they going to make money on this? Are they going to sell more than 5 copies? I don't know, but it's amazing. And
I'll pre-order one.
kudos to Catalyst Games for going out on a limb on this one. This is great. That was on ICB
It's
too.
it's amazing.
And then we got another one from our friends at Board Game Wire. Thank you, Mike, over there. He's such a great guy. And this one is about the Spiel, Essen Spiel, the world's biggest board game fair, scraps using AI art to promote the event after last year's backlash and ongoing legal uncertainty. So
Yeah,
they had
that's a
like
little bit of clickbait there. The legal thing, just the German government doesn't know legal what legal status AI art is going to have. So they're just afraid something will happen. There's
oh
no actual legal actions going on.
oh okay, so it's just one of those things. Okay, so
But I mean,
go
if
ahead.
any for everybody who attended Spiel last year, you probably remember the posters, banners, and huge things in the hall of just the psychotically excited cartoon people that had just this level of happiness that was, on the order of torture. And they mysteriously had odd numbers of fingers and strange joint movements, and their heads were on backwards. And so it caused a lot of controversy that all of these ads and posters were AI generated. And of course, we could have predicted this, that Essenspiel would make a statement that they're not going to do that anymore.
Right.
So this is a no-brainer, but still, it's nice to have Essen finally acknowledge it and make a statement about it.
Yeah, everybody was talking about it there. Though in this post on Board Game Wire, they were saying that they didn't hear anything about it during the show. They heard about it afterwards. But everybody at the show was like, "Did you see those posters? They don't really look like that's AI because people had six fingers." It was like really, really kind of like
Oh, the
odd.
facial expressions were just frightening, the stuff of nightmares.
So I think we have yes, we have two no, one more news story here. It's on the Diana Jones Awards,
And
which are
yeah, I'd love to take this one.
you got it,
The
man.
Diana Jones Awards are really just a fantastic, weird set of awards. So they've been going on for quite a while, sometimes referred to as the Nobel Prize of Gaming, but they're given to just a group, designer, publisher, someone,
It could be
uh,
anything.
anything.
It could be
Yeah.
like the you know the Meeple. We'll talk about the Meeple later in the show, but it
But
could be
they're not
literally
afraid to
anything.
go to really strange concepts.
Yeah.
So the news is that the nominees for the new Diana Jones Awards have been announced. There are five nominees. There's two conventions, Adepticon, which is a miniatures game convention in the Midwest, Fastival, which is an RPG and role-playing convention in Denmark. There is a TTRPG for Trans Right group in Florida, which is a charity bundle that's organized by Rue Dickey. The United Paizo Workers, which was one of the first board game unions, is a nominee for the Diana Jones Award. And friend of the channel, Amy Bao, who is the owner of Pink Tiger Games and creates just non-confrontational, non-violent, aggressively cute board games that are just a perfect manifestation of Amy's personality. So
Aw.
congratulations to the five nominees. I also just wanted to mention real quick a little bit about the Diana Jones Awards because it's hysterical. This is
The original story is
fascinating.
amazing, right?
I love the original story. So they've been given out since 2001. Uh, but what I want to talk about is the actual award. So the award was created um, way back when as a byproduct of TSR UK losing the license for Indiana Jones. TSR had made an Indiana Jones role-playing game, and when they lost the license, they had a big party where they had to destroy all of their inventory. And some of the lost inventory, so some of the burned, lost pieces of these books were collected together and molded into a plexiglass pyramid. And if you looked at it in the right angle, the title, Indiana Jones Role-Playing, meshed together to Diana Jones. So there is no person, Diana Jones.
No person.
This is a misread of the Indiana Jones role playing from burnt pieces within Plexi. The sad side of it is that physical statue was lost in the mail in 2021. So if anybody knows someone who mysteriously received an acrylic pyramid with weird burnt up bits inside it.
Corey will
The
buy
group
it.
would the group will be very, very happy to get it back.
We would
I would
would
not buy it for
of course
myself.
we would return it to the rightful owners if anybody does have it. And if you wanted a ransom for it, you can ask Corey. He'll pay the ransom. Okay. With that, let's get over to strategy and tactics. Okay. With Ignacy not being here again, we have to skip down a little bit because we had some questions, has his name in it. We like to keep those for when he's here. So we'll skip down, skip down, skip down. And you see here we have Chris Tremblay, who's at Cowplow. He asks, Cephalofair Games recently launched a crowdfunding campaign, which includes the Gloomhaven RPG using mechanics from Gloomhaven. There have
Yep.
been many RPGs that then released board game adjacent products, but it seems far fewer board games that launch an RPG. Do you think there are any other board game IPs right now that might expand into RPGs in the future? Well,
I
the
I actually
one
think there's quite a few doing
yeah,
this.
yeah, right. Another big one would be Dark Tower, right? Dark Tower
Right.
launched one after they did Return to Dark Tower, and they have Dark Tower role playing, whatever it's called. So it's actually a decent number doing this. Any other ones that you can think of, or any
I
ones that
remember it was a trend for quite a while. Dark Tower was my example. It came right off the top of my head, but I'm having trouble coming up with it. But I would say in the past year or two, there were a large number of announcements. And the thing is that I don't really follow the role-playing world all that strongly, so I lose track of board games turned into role-playing.
right? I if you're asking me what might work, I mean, if you think about it on some level, Terraforming Mars is the role playing game because it's based on books already. It's all based on that projected hard science from the Kim Stanley Robinson,
Yeah.
Red Mars, Blue Mars, Green Mars,
Yep.
and that actually could work. There won't be any space aliens there because specifically it's about projected science, not that kind of thing.
I think
But you could do it.
Thunder
Thunder.
Road
Well, yeah,
Vendetta would be a really interesting because you could bring it even further, this evolution of your car and your character and your trip and goals and quests and all this.
100%. Except that I bet that there's one based on a certain Road Warrior and those movies
Oh,
already.
there
Probably is
almost
one.
certainly is. And you
Yeah,
could argue that car duel, auto duel
there you
could
go.
be that empty space.
Yeah, there you go. Scott V, who's at Scott Dawn One, he's asked this questions before. Thank you, Scott. Using all of your individual industry business knowledge, could you make your educated guesses for the following? Going down the top 10 games on BGG, why don't you start that, Corey? What would you estimate each of their individual historical sales revenue is, and what would you guess each of their individual historical profits to their publisher? Now, okay, Scott, you're crazy.
Can't
No,
even guess. That
exactly,
is an
exactly. But
impossible
but
number.
here's but here's something that can be at least guessed at. Let's go take a look at the top 10 on board game geek.
Yeah,
But we can
I've
look
got them
at
up.
you got it up there, right? Okay. It's good to know that you can
So
get it up. Okay. So um the what we can potentially do here is figure out what the sales of some of these games have been, like as in unit sales. Maybe we can do that. And
yeah,
if you take a look um at each one of these games, there has a number of voters. So obviously, every one of those people who voted owns it or plays it, and there's going to be many, 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 many more than this
sure.
number who own the game. But we can kind of look at this.
It's
So
been estimated about 10% of owners will actively interact with BGG at the
and
most.
and if you think about this, and I'm not going to give away any true inside information, Terraforming Mars for the games in the top 10 here is the by
It's number
far
seven.
it's number 7 in the overall, but it's by far the most owned game, a number of voters here. It's
98,700.
right. Brass Birmingham is 46,000 ish, and Pandemic Legacy Season 1 is 54,000, and Gloomhaven is 62,000. And if Corey's statement is right that about 10% of owners actually do something like this, then Terraforming Mars's sales would be around 1 million copies. Is that right? I would not doubt that number. Now that would be, all languages. English is being the primary, but all of the 20
Sure,
languages,
sure.
etc. Right? And if you take a look down, you can kind of see that these numbers make sense. If you take this number and you multiply about it by about 10, you probably have something in the realm of accuracy. Though I
So we have a
think,
whole bunch at about 400, 500,000 copies.
yeah, I believe that's all of these numbers are probably on the higher side of that. But that so Brass Birmingham, if we're saying it's 450,000 copies, I think that might be a little high, but it's at least you have a scale here, right? It could be 200, it could be 600, but you have a scale of
We
the
have it
number of
within a
copies
magnitude.
within a magnitude is a good way of putting it, right? And if you really want to work out revenue, you can just
Yeah.
start doing some multiplication. And we've talked about how much revenue a publisher gets on each game. It's like 40% of the MSRP. And then profit, well, it's going to be, take out the
Got to
cost. So
pay
it's going to
off
be
all the other people. And
right. So there you go. We're not going to we can't go too much further down this road, but that's pretty good. Um, Okay, Mr. Juggles. I believe he's next, right? Yes, he is. From the UK. He's at Mr. Juggles. This question is not an entry into the competition, just a question. Would you ever consider posting posting a pretend real game submission form for pitching games to your company? So, for people who are pitching games, put a pretend form. I asked this because the other day I was reminded that Alley Cat Games has a submission form. I thought it would be a great idea to download that form. And even though I'm not designing a game and such at the moment, having a couple of pro formers from various companies so I could build up a framework of thoughts to consider when designing a game. It may even lead to your stumbling upon a great game from somebody just noodling around with ideas. So I had read this question before the show and I put some things down here. So I don't know what Alley Cat Games is doing, Mr. Juggles, but what I do know is that every company basically wants the same thing when you submit games to them. There's four
Yeah.
things, 3 to 4 things. Number one, a sell sheet. A sell sheet's a one-pager description of what the game is about, thematically, mechanically, what the components are that you believe, what you think the MSRP is going to be, ages, all that kind of stuff, and some artwork, some stuff that you have put together. It doesn't have to be, it could be pieces of paper that you've cut out, but
Yeah, a
pictures of
little
that.
portfolio of the game.
Right. One pager, a sell sheet. The second thing is a prototype. Every company at some point might want to see a prototype. You've been playing your game, so you should have a prototype. The third thing that is very big these days is a video of you talking about the game and showing the game off and maybe playing the first move out. 5-minute video. Don't play the whole game. Maybe 10
It's your
minutes.
elevator pitch if you can't be in person.
There you go. Perfect. And everybody's liking this now because a company can say like, "Oh, we're looking for a game like that," or "No, this is just not the kind of game we're looking for." And then the fourth thing, which is very, very important, if you want a lot of people to be able to see this game and play it, is a tabletop simulator implementation. That might
Yep.
be the hardest of all these things because you got to know how to use tabletop simulator, but there's enough
It's
stuff out
created a
there.
whole niche hobby. It's pretty easy to find someone, if not yourself, to create one.
Absolutely. So
I
go
I
ahead.
worry a little bit that if so the question is on a website, should you have an open submission for with a form to submit a game design? And I'm afraid that designers might be hurting themselves if they do that. A lot of times these forms will, by necessity, make a game pitch more boring. If a single thing is all that can be sent over out of these four, it's the sell sheet. The sell sheet is your way in the door. It's your way to quickly say, this is the exciting product I have. Then it leads to the other three.
Yeah, but sure, and it's easy enough to do one, but really you're always going to need a prototype. You have to have it in your
Yeah,
back pocket. And making a video using that prototype is a really easy thing to do. Everyone's got, I'm holding up my iPhone here, a professional quality camera that they could easily put, like from a like a above the board look or like on an angled look like this. And your face doesn't got to be on it. So you can be anonymous or you can put your face on it in the beginning of it and then take your face off. But you just want to show the game and move things around and explain how things work. I think that these days is actually the single best thing to do because in that video, you can actually have all of the other information about it. You already show the prototype. You can kind of talk the sell sheet through and you can explain the game's working. The video thing right now, every publisher really wants to see a video because it saves them so much time and
sure.
you as well, game designers. So that's my best answer to you there, Mr. Juggles. And I think most publishers will say exactly that. Corey, I think it's time for play testing. All right, Corey, you are the man as always. You're always creating the best questions for us. And you did it again.
No, no.
Last week was your question. Uh, and the question was, go ahead.
So t-shirt and jeans seem to be the standard uniform for a board gamer. Uh, And in extension to this, I asked, do you have any favorite t-shirts for conventions? Must packs, must wears.
Yeah, and it was funny the number of people talking. A lot of them were like, "I don't even wear jeans. I don't, I don't do this." So
Yeah, it caused a lot of discussion, a lot of going back and forth, which I think is awesome.
yeah. Okay. Did you find one there that you like the best? I have my new best friend Elena, who I met at KublaCon. She's wonderful. She came up to me and she's always commenting here and doing actually she's always doing it on the videos on the Podfather Gaming channel. Hi Elena. She goes, I hate uniforms and being told what to wear. Yeah. So I
That was
wear a
great.
dress with pockets instead of the gamer standard, and I alternate with leggings and a nice shirt for extra inconsistency. I love it. I think a lot of women wear leggings or a dress skirt at conventions. The younger ones are probably wearing jeans. I also used hiking socks, and those were so comfortable. I think I'm going to start wearing them more often to events. Thanks, Elena. Appreciate the comment.
I liked Mike Walecki had an actual picture of the his top pick t-shirt, and it's another variation of Sydney Potton Peep, which is one of my favorite modern art explanation weird memes that's going around. This is not a pipe, and it's a picture of a Mario Brothers half pipe, which I think is wonderful. Sydney Potton Peep.
Very, very cool. My good buddy Bill Bricker, he was the artist, still is at Stronghold Games. He is just a character. He says, no, but I do wear an Ohio State hat at every convention as part of my disguise. Yeah, like he's that famous. Okay, Bill, get over yourself. I love him. Without it, everybody would immediately recognize me as Batman. He and I have got this thing going back. I always say, I am Batman. And he's like, no, you're Aquaman. Aquaman's cool these days. Back in the day, he wasn't as cool, but now he's cool. He goes, by the way, can we please get some real questions about Bonacor's hair? I mean, is it a wig? Is it dyed? Is he undead and frozen in time? What's the deal? And this then spurred Kirk W to
Which I love.
then say, like, that's pretty easily answered. Is his screaming yellow vet a convertible? Then it's a rug. If he drives a hard type top, then it's real. As I learned from Click and Clack on Car Talk, there is a huge correlation between convertible drivers and baldness. And then he continues, with an asterisk. He says, where they seemed to not have information was on the causation, i.e., do bald men buy convertibles, or does driving a convertible make one lose one's hair?
I love
So,
it.
so for the record, for both of you jamokes, number one, Bonacor's hair is completely real, and there's even no balding. I just happen to have really good hair. Got that from my father and my mother. They had really good hair. My mom still does. Dad's passed. And it's not dyed. As you can see, it's gotten so much grayer over the last few
Oh, I
years.
don't want to talk about
It's
it.
really, yes, and you can't talk about gray, and you're a lot younger than me. But
I do want to throw in there that I had pitched at one point to do a board game contest on Above Board where we shaved Bonacor's head. And Paula threatened to kill me if I did that. So either it's an extremely expensive rug that is impossible to replace, or there's some real terror about shaving off his real hair.
It's not a rug, and I do drive a convertible. That is my screaming yellow Corvette is a convertible, which I drive. So maybe I'll lose my hair now that you think there's a correlation, maybe, but it's probably a correlation between older men and buying convertibles, maybe
I
not.
love it, man.
So anyway, board game fangirl she's wonderful. She's a big contributor. This is Melanie. She is, I guess I'm different. If I do wear a t-shirt, it's not with jeans. I wear skirts or I get dressed up for cons compared to what others are wearing. Also, I don't wear game-related t-shirts at actual cons. Overall, yes, people seem very casual to me, but that is not how I dress in real life. So I wear what I usually wear. It does not seem in general, as I see people at cons, that the average board gamer is into fashion or dressing more than just extremely casually. Very insightful because
And there
we
were a
know.
lot of answers that basically said it depends on the weather. If I'm at a convention in Iceland, I'm going to wear something different than a convention in, the steamy bathroom of Florida.
Great stuff. So, Corey, again, you're amazing, and you gave us this new question for this week. What is it?
So, uh, have you ever assembled a print and play game? And how often do you assemble print and play? So I'm thinking a little beyond just printing a set of cards and cutting them out. There's some print and plays that take some real honest to goodness assembling that might have cardboard components or cardboard or things that need putting together. I probably should say we shouldn't count prototypes here because nearly every game designer has assembled a print and play, which is their prototype. I'm talking about an honest to goodness print and play game that's available through, normal means.
Okay, so that's yeah. So yeah, you've definitely changed it a little bit, probably for the better, because anybody who's a designer or a publisher has to answer yes to this, right? I mean, all their games when they first
Start
have
out
them,
that way, yeah.
they all start out that way. We just talked about prototypes and stuff like that, right? They're all essentially a print and play game. Um, I'm trying to remember if I've ever assembled a print and play, and I think the answer is no. That was not a prototype. Though friends of mine have, right, and back in New Jersey, and we play it. And in fact, this is a great anecdote here. Not only did a good friend of mine back in New Jersey print out a print and play, which was called BSG Express. That
Yes,
meant
I
that
know
meant
this story.
Battlestar Galactica Express. It was a faster playing of Battlestar Galactica, obviously print and play because it was air quotes, stealing all of the Battlestar Galactica IP. And some designer by the name of Evan Derrick designed it,
Yep.
put it up for free as a thing. My friend printed this out. We played it, and I'm like, I'm going to go sign this game. Of course, we could not call it BSG Express because we did not have the Battlestar Galactica IP to do so, but we created our own little universe with Evan's help, and that was Dark Moon. So Dark Moon, which is one of my favorite hidden trader games out there,
Yep.
came out of that print and play game. Corey, how many times have you done
And
one? Go ahead.
oh, and the Dark Moon stuff. So we should say Evan is the head of Van Ryder Games now. And an
Yep,
absolutely fantastic guy.
he's a
And
great
if I
guy.
remember correctly, Dark Moon was the first artist job for someone who thinks you might be wearing a rug.
Oh, that was not Bill's first artist job. No, if that's what you're
I
saying.
thought he told me
No.
about that.
No, 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 no. Well, no, I mean, he was working for me at the time.
Okay, okay.
Full-time consultant, I believe. Bill started, and Bill's been an artist, period. An artist in gaming since the 70s, like something like that.
Oh, okay.
He's got serious illustrator artist credentials. He came to me way after, all of that. Maybe not the 70s, maybe the 80s. So during some of the D&D and he's done a lot of fantasy stuff. So, but anyway, he did do all the art. Bill, of course, did all the art and all the graphic design for that. So that's great, Corey. But you haven't answered the question. How often have you assembled a print
I
and play game?
I remember spending hundreds of dollars to print, assemble, cut, and create a version of a famous board game that was no longer available in print by any means. And pulled art off of freely available public domain sites, had cards, actually linen cards printed, cut, created a whole version of Dune the board game back in the no man's land when you could not get it.
Wow, you did that.
Oh, I went crazy.
You spent incredible amount of money. Is that what you're saying?
I did have cards, actual linen cards printed for one copy. What's really interesting about it is there was a public domain set of art on BGG, and that art was later, like nearly a decade after I printed this print and play of the art, that was the art bought and used for the new edition of Dune by Gale Force 9.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, they ended up actually using the art that was done.
Yep,
Neat, neat,
a
neat.
public domain art.
Very, very cool. So everybody out there, tell us what you do with your print and play games. Do you ever assemble them? How often you do it? And we're not going to count the prototypes and that the designers and publishers do all the time. Go over to the Guild on Board Game Geek and find playtesting number 322 and answer our question to you. And in the meantime, let's get over to the final scoring. Thank you so much for listening, and help us spread the word about this podcast by telling your friends to download Board Games Insider wherever they like to get their podcasts, or watch Board Games Insider on the Podfather of Gaming YouTube channel. If you want to be part of this podcast, you can just ask us questions for our strategy and tactics segment by posting them in the correct thread in our Guild on Board Game Geek, and also answer our question to you from the playtesting segment by going to our Guild on Board Game Geek and looking for the thread with this episode's question. Check out the websites, which are portalgamesus.com, podfathergaming.com, dicetowerdish.com, and play2zgames.com. And on social media, please like our Facebook pages /BoardGamesInsider, /PortalGamesUS, /PodfatherGaming, /Play2zgames, and speak directly to Ignacy, Corey, and Steven on X and Instagram. It's @PortalGamesUS, @Podfather Gaming, and @Dice Tower Dish. And those active YouTube channels are Portal Games Studio, the Podfather of Gaming, and Above Board TV. TikTok, it's Ignacy @Portal Games US. We love to see you in person at an upcoming convention. So if you're going to be at Origins, both Corey and I will be there. Come seek us out. Please come to some of the events, whether you want to have beers with me, or you want to watch the Origins Award, or you want to see me moderate a panel on the 50th anniversary of D&D. Check that out. I think they're going to be pretty fun events all around. Board Games Insider is professionally edited by Joshua Bowman from Tabletop Submarine Podcast. If you want your podcast edited by Joshua, reach out to him at tabletopsubmarine@gmail.com. And that great voice you hear doing the intro, the outro, and in between segments is that of Ray Greenlee. He can be contacted to do your voiceover work at raygreenleevoiceover.com. Corey, there's something insane that has to be talked about right now.
It's actually a little bit of a follow-up of something we talked about last week.
Yes, it is.
So, in the news last week was a story that a board game publisher got a cease and desist order in Europe for using the term Meeple. The word Meeple was trademarked by, they
Hans
didn't
M.
say
Gluck.
who, but we know it's Hans
No,
im Glück.
yeah, no, we know that it's
And
Hans M. Gluck in the European. Well, it is. I mean, that's
yeah,
public knowledge. So
and the
likely
publisher Cogito Ergo Meeple was told to cease and desist, and they ended up changing their company name.
change their company
So
name. Let me finish. Let me give you the whole context. They changed their company name, had to change the game name because the game was going to be called Meeple Inc., I believe, right?
Meeple's Incorporated, it was
Right.
changed to Tabletop Incorporated.
Right. So they had to do a lot to get past this cease and
So
desist.
trademarks are public. You can look them up and see. So, out of curiosity, I looked up who owns the US trademark for the word meeple. And it turns out there's a group of eccentric gamers who own the trademark to the word meeple in the US.
Well,
This
let's
is
let,
really interesting.
let's
And
clarify.
I hear they are benevolent overlords and are not going to abuse the ownership of the meeple term.
I've heard that they will allow the use of the mark Meeple for credit and candy. This is what I've heard. Is this true?
I've heard the candy is very important. And
So
this is public. Anybody can look up who owns the trademark to the word meeple.
I'm not letting you get away without actually saying it. So, Mr.
I mean, the
Thompson,
trademark is owned
doctor.
in apparel, board games, prototype, board game components. Uh,
So, Dr. Thompson and a good friend of the channel, Marion, who happens to be a lawyer, my fake lawyer, I always call her. And she's not your lawyer, remember that. So we they went out and they registered the mark. Now in all, just to make this complete, you do not own the mark yet, Corey, but though you're allowed to put Meeple TM, you can't
I
use
am.
the R yet. The R is the registered mark. It's got to go through a review process. Your real lawyer, Marion, probably could tell you that. But
Yep.
for the
Yep.
meantime, you own what's called use trademark of Meeple. But as you've just stated very clearly, this was to prevent anybody from doing bad things with the mark. And you'll now allow anybody to use it
And the candy. It's about
for
the candy.
candy. And of course, if you got to give Corey candy and Marion candy if you want
Yeah.
to use the mark. So that's what a great follow up. And by the way, I was shopping in Costco, I think, right? When all of a sudden I get a call from Corey. I was actually picking up contact lenses. And he's he's like, the mark for Meeple was just registered in the US. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, he was just, yes, some eccentric gamers just registered the mark. I'm not saying who. You have to go look it up. And I'm like, oh, you jerk. You jerk. I could see what you did. So that's just hysterical, man. So well, congratulations. You now probably, possibly may own the trademark to Meeple for like 14 years. Good luck. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
See you, everyone.
Bye.